Thank you for joining us for our Bite of Science, What's in Your Food, STEM and Food Science. So to give you a few background information on the Center for Excellence in Education, we were founded in 1983 by Joanne DeJong and Admiral Rickover, the father of nuclear navy and civilian uses of nuclear power, with a mission to nurture high school and university scholars to careers of excellence in leadership in STEM. So we currently offer 4 programs for teachers and students. We have our Research Institute, which is our highly competitive 6-week summer science and engineering program, which is open to rising high school seniors and juniors are eligible to apply. RSI is the first cost-free summer science and engineering program that combines on-campus coursework in scientific theory with off-campus work in science and technology research. We have USA Biolympiad, which is the premier biology competition for high school students in the United States. It provides the motivation, curricular resources, and skills training to take them beyond their classroom experience to the level of international competitiveness. Since CEE began administering the USABO in 2003, every member of our USA Biolympiad team has medaled at the International Biolympiad. Tonight, you are participating in the Teacher Enrichment Program, which provides opportunities to middle and high school teachers to connect with leading experts in industry and academia, explore cutting-edge research and development, and make meaningful professional links with direct benefits to you and your students. And our newest program is our STEM Lyceums program, which is our virtual club for high school students to engage in discussions and exploration of STEM concepts and career pathways. So on to our amazing speaker tonight. We have Dr. Maya Warren, who earned her PhD in food science from the University of Wisconsin-Madison. And one of the most interesting facts I've ever heard of a speaker is that she actually paired with her friend and former lab mate, where they were the winning duo of the 25th season of the Emmy Award winning show, The Amazing Race. And Dr. Maya currently owns her own consulting firm that is an international consulting company that specializes in the art of science of frozen aerated desserts. So we are really in for a treat tonight, and I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Maya.
Thank you so much, Heather. Thank you everyone for joining today. Today we're going to explore what's in your food, STEM and food science, and particularly the sweet science of ice cream. And as Heather just mentioned, my name is Dr. Maya, or Dr. Maya Warren, and I'm an ice cream scientist. I am from St. Louis, Missouri. And Heather, we can go to the next slide there. I was born and raised in St. Louis, Missouri, where I grew up. Went to grade school, high school. Not sure if anyone here is from St. Louis, but I went to the Cathedral Basilica grade school and went to Rosati Kane High School. From there, I decided to go to Minnesota, where I went to a school called Carleton College in Northfield, Minnesota. Very small town, very small school, liberal arts education. Couldn't have asked for a better education. And there I decided to get my bachelor's of arts in chemistry. I've always loved science and was in college trying to figure out, all right, what do I want to do? Where do I want to go in terms of science? And I said, you know what? I love chemistry. I fell in love with chemistry in high school, and I decided to become a chem major. And what I was going to do with that chem degree, I didn't really know. I thought I was going to become a sports medicine doctor because I was an athlete in college, and said, you know what? I could become a sports medicine doctor, or I was going to become a high school chemistry teacher. But neither one of those things really lit up my eyes the way that, well, ice cream does. And so one day during my senior year of college, I was over my best friend's house, and she had television. And during that time, it was not common to have television. And I was watching a show called Unwrapped, where you go in and literally unwrap how food is made. It comes on, or used to come on, the Food Network. And during this episode of Unwrapped, it's actually perfect timing right now, because they went into a flavor chemistry lab and they had flavor scientists showing how to make different soda taste like different parts of the traditional Thanksgiving meal. So you had green bean casserole flavored soda, you had mashed potatoes and gravy flavored soda, cranberry sauce flavored soda. And if you're anything like me, you're like, oh my gosh, that does not sound good. But I was so incredibly intrigued. I was like, wow, I could become a flavor chemist. How cool is that? And the school that I went to, Carleton College, is really small. We didn't have food science as a major, but luckily, right up the street from my college was a company called Malto. And there I actually was able to intern. I did analytical chemistry internship at Malto, where I looked at cereal slurries and the viscosity of cereal slurries. And although that didn't necessarily make my eyes light up, I didn't fall in love with the science of wheat and barley. I learned something from that internship. I learned how cool and how intriguing food science is. And so I said, you know what? What food do I love so much that I can literally research every day of my entire life? And although I can't hear you right now, I want you all to scream what you think it is. And if you just said ice cream, you are very much so right. I absolutely love and adore ice cream. And so I decided to go to the University of Wisconsin-Madison in order to get my PhD in food science, studying the microstructure, sensorial, and behavioral properties of frozen aerated desserts. And I told myself at the age of about 20, 21, I'm going to do what I love and love what I do for the rest of my life. And ice cream is truly what I love. And I graduated from the University of Wisconsin-Madison with my PhD, specializing in food science with a minor in business back in 2015. And so I literally love anything and everything about ice cream and about food science. And I just am super happy to share with you my passion and my how I got into ice cream, and hopefully I can inspire you too to find your ice cream. So ice cream scientists, you may maybe have or have not heard of an ice cream scientist, but as an ice cream scientist, as I said, I got my PhD in food science. I develop new flavors. I create new frozen aerated dessert products. I do a lot of troubleshooting to improve products. And believe it or not, or maybe you do actually believe this, I taste and eat a lot of ice cream. So a lot of it is for research purposes. I do eat it for enjoyment, but a lot is for research purposes to be able to dissect the with my palate, the texture, the taste, the mouthfeel, for some of the attributes of ice cream that I'm looking for. And of course, I have so much fun. I absolutely love anything and everything about ice cream. I feel like ice cream really found me, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. So with ice cream, I'm able to do really, really, really cool things. Pun intended on that one. I'm able to travel the world. I absolutely love to travel. I've gone to Brazil, I've gone to Thailand, I've gone all the way to Egypt and Nigeria, Kenya, Pakistan, India, you name it. I've kind of been all over the world exploring the art and science of frozen aerated desserts. And the beauty of it is that no matter where you are in the world, there's some type of frozen aerated dessert like ice cream that people enjoy. And no matter where you are in the world, when you give someone that ice cream type dessert or ice cream in general, you end up putting a smile on their face. And so that's something that I really love about ice cream, is how it really does bring everyone together. And so even though I love the science, I love making ice cream, of course I enjoy eating it, there's actually more to it than just those things. And so I hope today you're able to kind of understand and see where you can take something that you love so much. And believe it or not, I actually am currently not even in the United States. I live basically in America, in Los Angeles, California, as you can see by that arrow in North America. However, drum roll, I actually currently am in Melbourne, Australia. So I'm actually really far ahead of everyone else. If you are on the West Coast, any teachers, any students on the West Coast, I actually am 19 hours ahead of you. And if you're on the East Coast, I'm 16 hours ahead of you right now. So it's actually Friday morning for me, November 17th, where it's Thursday afternoon, early evening for you all. And so I'm able to explore, again, ice cream all over the world. So I actually do consulting work between North America and Australia. And so I'm actually in Australia right now. So hello from the future, everybody. I'm actually in Australia right now doing ice cream work. And thank you to Heather for being able to work with me with my schedule to be able to make sure that we would make this work. Because in the beginning, I thought I would be in Los Angeles, and I'm actually in Australia right now, doing ice cream research, doing consulting work for companies out here. And so when Heather and I were talking in preparation for the actual talk today, she asked me what led me to STEM. And, you know, just pure curiosity is what led me to STEM. I always had this passion when I was a young girl, about 6 years old, for creating things. And I first started creating things with what you call an easy bake oven. And I don't know, I know some teachers out there know easy bake ovens, and hopefully some students know easy bake ovens too. But you basically would kind of, take some packets that they had, maybe add some milk or water and mix things together. And you would basically bake things with a light bulb. It was sort of a safer way to be able to kind of have kids bake without actually using an actual oven. And so I was just so intrigued with being able to turn a certain matter into some kind of finished product. And I was just really, really into the science of creating things. I was always very curious. And I actually had my first ice cream maker when I was about 6 years old. I have it pictured up here. It's kind of a plastic piece of, I don't know, a little bit of metal in there maybe that they put together to create this little ice cream maker that kids could use. And I remember getting it as a little kid and being able to literally churn my own ice cream. And believe you me, it was not delicious at all. I think I got a little bit of too much salt and water inside of it, but nonetheless, I made it myself, and I was very, very, very excited about that. But what led me to STEM was simply curiosity. But what honed in on that curiosity was my parents and my teachers. My parents always said to me, Maya, you can do and become anything your heart desires. Don't just reach for the stars, leap over the moon. And so I've been able to take that with me and really believe in myself and believe in my curiosity, and that no idea is too crazy or no idea is too wild. And so going all the way from creating things on an easy bake oven to creating things on my little ice cream maker, following that curiosity that my parents and my teachers, my high school chemistry teacher, one of my favorite teachers still to this day, he taught me that I could become a chemist. And he really honed in on that with me and allowed me to really fall in love with chemistry. And so although some subjects might be really hard, might be really difficult, find that subject that you love and find what you can do in it. Because believe it or not, ice cream is chemistry. And so I took my love for chemistry and went down a few different paths to get to ice cream. Like I said, sports medicine, our chemistry teacher, and it eventually led me to ice cream. And so some of you might ask, why ice cream? You say you love it, but really, why ice cream? And it's such a good food to eat. I didn't know you could study it. And so when I was in graduate school, I wanted to find something that I really loved and that could become a part of me. I wanted to do something that when I woke up every day, it would put a smile on my face, and not only my face, but the faces of others. And I mentioned earlier how it really does bring people together. And ice cream truly speaks every single language. It is like no other food. It brings people together. It has no isms. It has no barriers. And that's something that I really enjoy about the fact that I travel the world, make ice cream, and able to put smiles on people's faces. And look, don't get me wrong, I think it's actually a really amazing food, an amazing thing to study. And like I said earlier, ice cream found me. And today we're actually going to go through a demo of how to do no churn ice cream at home. And hopefully we'll be able to have a little bit of questions, maybe some questions coming in as I teach you all a little bit about making no churn ice cream and some of the science behind it. But I have some cards, some little ingredient and kitchen equipment cards on the next slide that hopefully you all, your teachers can give to you. Teachers, feel free to make it at home yourself. It's really, really good, really, really fun ways to be able to make no churn ice cream. And so on these cards, I'll go through them actually live as well, but these are cards that you all can use in classrooms and or at home to teach a little bit about the science of ice cream while you're doing something really fun. And believe it or not, there's so much science in ice cream. Ice cream is a food that has three phases. It's a solid, it's a liquid, and it's a gas all in one. It's a gas because of the air cells that are whipped in, that are put into ice cream or injected or whipped into ice cream. It's a liquid because it has a semi-liquid phase called the serum phase, where ice cream actually seems to be frozen, but it's not fully all the way frozen. And of course, it's a solid due to the ice crystals and some of the partially crystalline fat globules that are in ice cream. And so the whole fact that ice cream has 3 different phases already is so incredibly intriguing to me and literally makes my eyes light up. But on the flip side of that, ice cream also is just a really tasty, delicious treat. And it's a great way to be able to learn about science and to learn about phase transitions of food. So today we're going to go through these 2 cards live. I'm not going to do it right here, but I'll go through them live, and then you all hopefully will be able to either have the video or you can somehow see this on another way. So hopefully you can see me now. Hi everybody. Again, my name is Dr. Maya. Hopefully you can see all the ingredients and stuff. I'm going to pull things back just a little. So I want you to be able to see everything that I'm going through today as we make our no churn vanilla ice cream. And you can put inclusions in it if you want, but you don't have to, but it's definitely there for you to be able to do. So today we're going to go through how to make no churn ice cream. And what does no churn ice cream mean? It means that you don't have to have a churn or a machine, an ice cream machine, I should say, to be able to make the actual ice cream. You just need a few common kitchen handheld items like your mixer, like your handheld mixer that I have here. You could also use a stand mixer, like a Cuisinart stand mixer. You need 2 bowls, like I have here, 1 large bowl, and then 1 sort of medium-sized bowl. Again, all of this is on your cards. You need a spatula, like I've got here, a little spatula, as well as a container to be able to freeze your product in with a lid, as well as a ladle. So I have all of these items set out already. In addition to that, you'll need a few measuring cups, measuring spoons, a couple of different items to be able to put your ingredients in as well. And so I've got all of my kitchen equipment. I just went through that with you all. And now I'll go through the actual ingredients that you'll need. And so hopefully, Heather, let me know if we're able to kind of do a little bit of a back and forth with the teachers and students here. I want you all to tell me before I go through all the ingredients, what do you think some of the main ingredients in ice cream actually are?
We can.
If we can get some.
We actually have a full chemistry class, like we're being broadcast within the class right now. So the 3 phases of matter was right on time.
Perfect. Hi, everybody.
So some of the answers for common ingredients, they said milk, candy, nuts, chocolate. Those are fruit. We have fruit, strawberries, vanilla. So there we have it right there. Those are what we have.
Perfect. So one of the key ones that I heard was milk, and in order to get a lot more fat in your milk, we do what you call separation. So we'll separate the cream from the milk. So actually, I've got cream here, and so my heavy whipping cream is very cold. In order to whip heavy whipping cream, you need it to be cold. You need the fat to be cold, and so I've got about a 35% fat heavy whipping cream here. I've got about 2 cups of it. So you have heavy whipping cream. And then another question for you all. One thing I did not hear is, what do you think makes ice cream sweet? What do you add to it to make ice cream sweet?
Sugar.
Sugar, there we go, yes. Sugar, very good. Thank you, Heather. Sugar. And in this case, we're not pouring in straight sugar. We're actually going to use what you call sweetened condensed milk. So it's milk that's been condensed down, meaning that some of the water has been evaporated off, and there's a lot of sugar added to it. So that's going to be our sugar source. And this is really important because it helps to lower the freezing point depression. And for those of you in the chemistry class, and maybe those of you not in the chemistry class, I want you all to tell me what happens when it snows outside. What do they put on the ground when it snows outside to maybe help with some of the cars driving and help people maybe not slip? What do they sprinkle on the ground when it snows outside?
We just had one person come in with salt.
Very good, very good. They sprinkle salt on the ground. And that actually is because that salt helps to lower the freezing point depression of the ice. So if you notice, when you've got ice on the ground, they'll sprinkle salt, and that actually melts the ice because it's no longer cold enough for the ice to freeze because it has that salt solution inside of it. Very similar to what sugar does when you put it with milk and cream to make ice cream. It helps to lower the freezing point depression. But you don't want to put too much sugar because you don't want to lower the freezing point depression too much, but it actually helps ice cream to freeze at the proper temperature and not just freeze at the temperature of which ice freezes, because then it'll be too hard and too hard of a rock and too hard to scoop. So sugar does very similar, but who wants to load their ice cream with salt? I think sugar is a lot better to use instead of salt. And who wants to pour sugar all over the ground to melt ice? It's a lot better to use salt on that and sugar in ice cream. So we've got sugar in the form of sweetened condensed milk. We've got cream, which is our dairy, our milk source. We also have a little bit of salt. I add salt to ice cream just a little bit, just to be able to enhance the flavor. Salt is a flavor enhancer. Salt's very delicious. And so I add a little bit of salt, not that you can taste it, it just helps to boost the flavor a little bit. And I also add a little bit of evaporated milk. And here the evaporated milk just adds a little bit more water to bring into the ice cream. Believe it or not, there's a lot of water in ice cream as well. There's typically around between about 59 to 61%, 62% water in ice cream. And when I say ice cream, I'm talking about a product that has to be 10% or more milk fat. So today we're making ice cream, and that's with something that's 10% or more milk fat because of the heavy whipping cream that we have here. And then of course you can have your flavors. So here I've got 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract. Hopefully you can see that here. And then of course I've got my inclusion. I've got Oreo pieces, I've got M&Ms. As you see here, I've got Oreo cookies that I can break up and put in as inclusions as well, or you can just leave it as plain vanilla ice cream. So we're gonna get started.
Maya,
yes.
One question before we get started. They wanted to know if you added granulated sugar, would that make a difference versus the sweetened condensed milk that we're using today?
Yes, very good question. You can add the granulated sugar. However, in terms of the no churn ice cream recipe, it's better to add the sweetened condensed milk because the granulated sugar needs to dissolve, and it's harder to dissolve sugar in something that's cold. Remember, I talked about our heavy whipping cream being very cold, and the sweetened condensed milk also brings in a bit more total solids, which we need to be able to kind of ump the texture of the product. So technically you could, but it won't quite turn out the same. But it will still help to lower the freezing point depression. You could actually, instead of using sweetened condensed milk, if you want to make a caramel ice cream, you could technically add caramel instead of the sweetened condensed milk in the no churn recipe because that caramel brings in a lot of solids as well as a lot of sugar. But dissolving that sugar is really important as well. Great question though. All right, so we're going to get started with pouring in our ingredients. So we have our sweetened condensed milk. I've got 1 1/4 cup of sweetened condensed milk here. I'm going to pour that into my large bowl and take my spatula and scrape it out. And the reason is the 1 1/4 cup, you can use, if you want to make it a little less sweet, you can use 1 cup of the sweetened condensed milk. You don't have to use the 1 1/4 cup. You can use you can use a cup. And within that, if you just have a can of sweetened condensed milk at home, that typically already is a 1 1/4 cup, just kind of an FYI to kind of give you a hint. All right, so I've scraped out my sweetened condensed milk into my large bowl. I'm going to take my evaporated milk. I've got 1/4 cup of evaporated milk that I'm going to pour in right on top of my sweetened condensed milk. Then I'm going to take my vanilla extract. I've got 2 teaspoons of my vanilla extract that I am, again, just going to pour directly on top like you see here. And this vanilla extract boosts that flavor. It gives that beautiful vanilla flavor. Depending upon the strength of your vanilla extract, maybe just test it out, maybe add a little less or a little bit more, depending upon how much vanilla you want. Then I'm going to take a pinch or 2 of sea salt. So I've got a little bit of sea salt. I'm just kind of rubbing it in between my fingers just to sort of get it in there a little bit. I'm taking 2 pinches of my sea salt, kind of, do it at your discretion. Then I'm going to continuously stir this. I'm going to mix it all together so I get to a beautiful homogeneous mixture. As you can see right now, I've got a bit of separation. So you can kind of see some of that vanilla. You can see that sweetened condensed milk. You can see that evaporated milk. So now I'm going to mix this all together till I get to a beautiful homogeneous mixture. And it's important for it to be a homogeneous mixture for when we fold in our whipping cream later on. So now I've got a beautiful homogeneous mixture of my sweetened condensed milk, my evaporated milk, my vanilla extract, and my sea salt. And again, the amounts are all in the ingredient cards that we listed earlier. And so now you see a beautiful homogeneous mixture. You'll notice it's a bit thinner than it was when I just had the sweetened condensed milk in there, which makes sense because I added more liquid to it. So then I'm just going to take this bowl, I'm going to set it aside, and I'm going to bring forward my my medium-sized mixing bowl, and I'm going to bring forward my heavy whipping cream. And notice I've been talking about having cold, heavy whipping cream. This is really important because we're going to whip our cream. And I have a question for you. When we whip cream, what are we doing? What are we actually adding in order to create this kind of fluffy, beautiful texture that we call whipped cream? What are we adding in to the whipped cream when we whip it?
Someone put in the chat air.
Yes, very good. Very, very good. So into these two cups of heavy whipping cream that I just poured into this bowl, we are going to take our hand mixer, or if you have a stand mixer, the bowl that's attached with your stand mixer is the bowl that you'll use to pour in your 2 cups of heavy whipping cream. And you're right, whoever guessed air, that's correct. There is so much air actually in ice cream. Ice cream can have upwards to what we call 100% overrun or a volume expansion to be able to pumps in air to give you that much overrun in a product. So if you are at the grocery store and you have, for instance, a pint of Haagen-Dazs or maybe a pint of Breyers or Edie's or Dryers, the Haagen-Dazs will be very, very dense. And the Edie's or Dryers will be very, very light. Which brand do you think has more air? Which brand, the brand that's more dense, like the Haagen-Dazs, or the brand that's lighter, like the Edie's or Dryers? Which brands do you think have more air inside of them?
The Edie's.
Yes, so very good. So air is actually something that we put into ice cream to help with texture. It also helps expand the volume. It's actually something that's free. Air is free. It's all around us. And so it actually helps to lower the cost of ice cream as well. It doesn't mean that there's one ice cream that's better than the other. It's really an individual choice in terms of like what ice cream you like. However, when it comes to making ice cream, when it comes to being able to make sure it's scoopable, we add air in the ice cream. And so in this case, in the no churn ice cream, we're going to be adding air by actually whipping the heavy whipping cream. And this process takes about maybe about 5 to maybe 2 minutes, depending upon if you're using a hand mixer or a stand mixer, all the way up to about 5 or 7 minutes. So in this case, I'm not going to go through actually whipping it because it's going to be quite loud. But I actually have one in the fridge already to be able to show you. But basically, what you're going to do is you're going to take your hand mixer or your stand mixer. You're going to put your paddles in your very cold, heavy whipping cream. The reason why you want it cold is because you want those fat globules to be able to sort of come together. And if they're too melted, like a melted butter, they won't come together the way that we want them to. So the fat globules in here will help entrap that air that creates that beautiful fluffy texture. So you want your product to be quite chilled. So I took this from the fridge right before we started. So you're going to put your paddles in your bowl, and then you're going to turn it on to the lowest setting first, or the second to lowest setting. You want it to be on to the lowest setting that's actually on. And you're going to start whipping it, just kind of moving it like I'm doing right now. Then you're going to turn it to the highest setting and really, 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 really get to whipping. And like I said, it's going to take somewhere between 2 to 5, maybe 7 minutes, depending upon your mixer. And while you're whipping, you're going to start seeing bubbles. Those bubbles are what we call that air that's about to get trapped in. So again, I won't do it right now because I don't want to make it too loud, but I'll just set this aside and I will show you all what I actually created earlier in the refrigerator.
And while you're grabbing that, we do have a question. You did state that the aeration will make the different ice cream packages feel lighter or heavier. So the question was, does that also affect the milk content or the milk fat content that's in the different varieties of ice cream? Or is it just the air?
It can. No, it can definitely affect the milk fat content. Typically, that's a very good question. Typically, if you have an ice cream that is higher in fat, you usually will not have a lot of air because it doesn't quite make sense to pump something full of air when you have so much fat coming in already. So typically you'll have what you call maybe economy brands of ice cream, which might be kind of like generic store brands of ice cream. That would be like your minimum fat range that you can have, which is 10% fat. And you might have, you know, about, I don't know, 90, 85, 90 to 100% overrun in or the amount of air that's put into that ice cream product. On the flip side, you have a product like a Ben & Jerry's or a Haagen-Dazs that's a lot more dense. And those tend to be upwards to 14% fat, but a lot less air. So there are ways that in the industry that we sort of play around with how to make sort of that perfect product that we believe the consumers will enjoy. But there is usually a correlation between higher fat, lower air, or higher air and lower fat. You usually kind of see those correlations, and it really comes down to a money thing and kind of, I guess, a common sense thing. You don't want to pump something full of air when you have so much fat coming in already. So there are kind of correlations there. So very good question. I like the way you all are thinking. All right, so I just pulled out the heavy whipping cream that I whipped earlier that I now consider my whipped cream. And you all can see this whipped cream is absolutely beautiful. I absolutely love stiff peaks in my whipped cream. And hopefully I'm not too far away from the camera or from the computer so you all can see how these peaks are basically holding on themselves. That means that I've got that fat that's kind of been forced together to entrap that air that now has created this beautiful whipped cream. All right, and this whipped cream we're actually going to take and we're going to fold it into our sweetened condensed milk mixture that we have with our sweetened condensed milk, evaporated milk, vanilla extract, and our sea salt. And we're going to fold it in. The reason we're going to fold it in is because we want to be cautious of the air. We want to try to keep as much air in as possible. And if you start swirling too much, it can kind of deplete some of that air. So what we're going to do is I'm going to take my spatula. I'm going to take my heavy whipping cream, my whipped cream that I've whipped already. And I'm going to take about 2 spatulafuls and I'm just going to plop it into my sweetened condensed milk mixture, as you all can see here. And I'm just going to continuously do this. I'm going to take it, I'm going to fold it. So I'm going to fold all of my whipped cream into my sweetened condensed milk mixture. And what we're doing right now is we are actually creating the vanilla ice cream base. All right, so during this time, if there aren't any more questions, this would be a great time to be able to ask some more questions. So I'm going to take a little bit of time just to make sure I fold this in properly.
We do. So one of the questions is, what exactly is an aerated dessert besides ice cream?
Very good question. So what's an aerated dessert besides ice cream? When you go down that ice cream aisle, you actually see them every time you go down that aisle. So you'll have maybe a non-dairy type frozen dessert. It's not really ice cream because ice cream has to have 10% or more milk fat. You also might have a sherbet, which is part has a little bit of milk in it. It's kind of what we consider like a cross between sorbet and ice cream. And then of course you have sorbet, which does not have any dairy in it. Then you'll maybe have a custard, a frozen custard. A frozen custard has to also have 10% or more milk fat. But the difference between custard and ice cream is that the frozen custard also has to have 1.4% or more egg yolk on a weight by weight basis. Then you'll also have what we call like milk ice or ice milk, which is what you would get from a place like a McDonald's or maybe like a IKEA or something like that. Those products tend not to actually be real ice cream. It's what we would maybe call like a soft serve in sort of their generic brand, but they're really called milk ice or ice milk. And then you also have things like gelato. Gelato does not have a legal definition in the United States, but we tend to think of gelato as something with a little bit lower milk fat than ice cream. It tends to be served fresh off. So I know you can go to the store and buy things like Talenti, which is a gelato, a store brand gelato in the United States. But if you were to go to Italy and have gelato, it's usually served very fresh off. They make it the same day. It tends to be a little bit sweeter, and you tend not to scoop gelato. You tend to actually spatula it because of the texture of it. So there's a lot of different frozen aerated desserts out there. depending upon kind of where you maybe live in the world, as well as, you know, kind of what you're used to. And so in America, we're very, very, very big on ice cream, but there's so much more out there than just ice cream. And so that's one of the really cool things that I've been able to do with my love of ice cream and love of the science of ice cream is explore frozen and aerated desserts kind of all over the world. All right, so as you all can see, I've pretty much cleaned out my bowl with my whipped cream inside. So I'm going to set that aside, and now I've got a beautiful homogeneous mixture where I've folded in my whipped cream into my sweetened condensed milk, and now we've got our vanilla ice cream base. And at this point, what you're going to do is you're going to bring forward your container that you're going to freeze in, as well as your ladle, and of course your lid, because you need to put your lid on. And you can then begin, oops, let me undo this. You can then begin actually fold it. You can actually then begin putting in your ice cream base and layering it with different inclusions. So in this case, I've got some M&Ms, I've got Oreos, I've got some Oreo crumbs. You can kind of use whatever. If you want to use a caramel sauce, or if you want to use anything like that, you can use any kind of what we call inclusions that you want. And so if you're using something like a caramel sauce, we tend to refer to those as variegates, like a fudge sauce or caramel or raspberry or strawberry sauce. Those are variegates. Or if you're using something like a hard candy or a cookie or nut or anything like that, we tend to refer to these as particulates. So whether or not you want to use a variegate or a particulate or any kind of inclusion that you want, the sky's the limit, feel free. So what we're going to do is you're going to pull forward the bowl that you have to be able to freeze in your container, your bowl, your container. You're going to take your ladle, and I'm going to show you all how to ladle in and then how to layer in. So I'm going to take this homogeneous mixture, and I'm going to put a layer in here. So this is the start of my ice cream. Right now it's the vanilla ice cream, and I'm going to take some Oreo crumbs just like this, and I'm going to sprinkle them in here. Okay, and then you can do different layers if you want to do a layer of M&Ms, if you want to do a layer of chocolate or whatever you want to do. And so I'm going to continuously do that. So I'm going to take another ladle full, and I'm going to layer it in. And I'm going to continuously do this until I fill up my container, basically, or until I get to the end of my base here. So continuously do this, and at the end, you'll be able to have a filled container. And then you'll put your lid on it, you'll stick it inside your freezer for about 5 to 7 hours, and you'll take it out and you'll be able to enjoy some beautiful, delicious no-churn ice cream that you made yourself. And I've got one that I made a little bit ago, so I'm going to show you all sort of a finished product. Sorry for the noise, my freezer's a little creaky.
Dr. Maya, one question is, what would you consider to be the artistic side of creating ice cream?
Yes, very good question. So the artistry or the artistic side of making ice cream is sort of creating, using ice cream as a blank canvas. So I consider this, what we just made here right now, to be a blank canvas. And as an artist, I can throw anything and everything at it. So imagine having a blank canvas and all these different colors of paints and different textures that you can add to it. So in this case, I've got not necessarily different colors of paint, but I've got different ingredients that I can play around with. And so when I'm making new flavors, I'm an artist trying to decide, all right, do I add this much pistachio? Do I add this much cardamom? All right, where am I maybe roasting my cardamom to bring out some roasted notes? Am I adding a little bit of cracked black pepper to make some of the product pop? It's all about sort of designing for your, not for necessarily always for your eyes, but I'm designing for your taste buds, for your palate. And so although when we eat food, we don't really think about the science and the artistry that goes into it, but there's such a finesse that goes into actually creating ice cream or creating food in general. And as food scientists, as product developers, that's really who we are. We're scientists, we're also artists. And so although I didn't go to school necessarily to create new flavors, it's something that I've been able to hone in on throughout my career. And I love being able to share that with people like you all, with young people like you all. So I know we're sort of kind of getting close to time, and I want to make sure we have time for more Q&A, as well as any other wrap up that we need to do. So here's one that I made a while ago. This is a no churn ice cream with an Oreo base with broken up M&Ms inside of it. So if you're going to use anything like an M&M, make sure you break them up first, because you don't want them to kind of hurt your teeth, or use the mini M&Ms. Those are a bit better. So you don't want to hurt your teeth. So yeah, so at the end, go ahead and continuously layer in your inclusions, put your lid on top, stick it in your freezer, pull it out 5 to 7 hours later, and you've got a delicious treat to share with everyone. And you've learned a little bit of science along the way. So I want to thank you all for having me today. Hopefully you all enjoyed being able to learn a little bit about science, a little bit about the science of ice cream, I should say. And hopefully I've inspired you too to find something that makes your eyes light up, or makes your tube socks go up and down the way ice cream does for me. So thank you all for allowing me to share with you my love of the art and science of ice cream. And yeah, hopefully if you have any questions, we can answer some more questions. And yeah, we can go from there.
We do have a few more
Awesome
questions, so we will move to the Q&A. And with the question, it is, from what country have you experienced your favorite ice cream?
Oh, great question. So one of my favorite ice creams has probably come from New Zealand, and it's actually not an ice cream, it's actually a gelato, so it doesn't meet the legal definition of an ice cream, but it's a gelato, and it was just so incredibly beautiful. The texture, when I taste ice cream, I'm not tasting it for the flavor first, I'm tasting it for the texture more than anything. And so the way that it sort of just melted in my mouth, the way that the fat, the creaminess of the ice cream, the fat globules were distributed in a certain way. I mean, you could just tell that it was just made with so much love and care. And the flavors were really good too, but just that texture was impeccable to me. And the flavors, of course, helped it, but I just love the texture of that product. And then another one that I always comes to mind is a product that I made out in Nairobi, Kenya. So I used to work for a company that has locations in Kenya, and I would go out there and create frozen aerated desserts for a company out in Nairobi. And the dairy, the quality of the dairy in Nairobi it's beautiful. And so oftentimes when you're eating ice cream, you may not even think about the quality of the dairy, but the quality of the dairy really does play a huge part in what that final product will be. And the quality of the dairy there is really, really good, as well as the sugar. They don't really have a white granulated sugar there, as it's not as common as maybe like what we would consider kind of like a sugar in the raw, kind of almost like a sugar with a little bit more molasses. And so their ice cream contains that sugar with a little bit more molasses, and so it just has a really beautiful taste to it. So I've got some favorite ice creams across the globe, but those are probably the two. And honestly, it really starts with the quality of the dairy. Both New Zealand and Kenya have really, really great dairy coming out of their farms.
Do you have any suggestions for how a teacher could apply math when using this activity in the classroom?
Oh, for sure. There's so much math involved. Although I didn't go over it today, you can on the cards that Heather showed earlier on the PowerPoint, all of those are different measurements. And so whether or not it's figuring out the final volume of the product that you're creating, whether or not you're adding inclusions or not, but all of the calculations there, as well as being able to kind of look at, and this may be a little advanced for high school. I'm not sure. It's been a long time since I've been in high school, but looking at sort of the effect of sugar and other ingredients on the freezing point depression. And so there are activities that can be done when it comes to freezing point depression, where it's a lot of math and calculations involved in that, to be able to look at how sugar impacts the point at which ice actually will start to freeze, or sorry, water will start to freeze into ice. And so there's definitely a lot of math involved as well. Although I didn't go over it today, there definitely is a lot of math involved in the science of ice cream.
How many countries outside of the US have you been to because of your ice cream work?
Wow. So because of my ice cream work, I think I've probably been to over 20 countries. Yeah. including one that I live in right now, which is Australia. But I think it's probably around 20 countries. The beauty of being able to take my love of ice cream and literally explore the world is something that I feel incredibly blessed to be able to do. And it just has allowed me to see that the world is very small in an odd way. It's very big, but very small, and that we could all come together over a common food such as ice cream. And so I love to travel. I love the science of ice cream, and somehow I was able to kind of allow those two things to merge. And I really just believe that, I'm just, again, very blessed. And this is, the opportunity that God has for me to be able to explore the world of frozen aerated desserts.
What is your first step to develop a new flavor?
Oh, great question. So my first step in developing a new flavor actually comes down to a bit of brainstorming, a bit of ideation. So before I even go into the lab or the kitchen or a test kitchen, anything like that, I maybe do some market research. I go out and I taste ice cream all kind of different places, or I taste yogurts, I taste soft drinks, because typically before a product will come into the ice cream aisle, you'll usually see some common ingredient or some ingredient that you might bring into ice cream. You'll usually see it in drinks and beverages first, then usually in yogurt, then it'll come into ice cream. So I do a lot of market research, whether or not I'm kind of just doing ideations with team members, or I'm going out and I'm doing actual, and when I mean ideations, it's more brainstorming, kind of throwing things at a wall and seeing what ideas stick. But before that, I go and I do a lot of research myself. If I'm going to grocery stores, if I'm going to fine dining restaurants, or I'm going to kind of whatever, little small restaurants in the middle of nowhere, just to be able to taste new concepts. Dairy is a very interesting product because milk, the fat in milk or the fat in cream is a masker. It can mask flavors. So when you have something that's in like a soda or a carbonated beverage, the flavor release will be very different than when you have it in a dairy product like a yogurt, or a higher fat dairy product like an ice cream. So I kind of tend to look at all of those different food groups. And I also tend to look what's going on in the Asian continent, because they tend in the Asian continent, such as places like Japan, maybe South Korea, Thailand, etc. They tend to be very advanced, and they tend to do different flavors before anyone else in the world will do them. But I also look at Europe, I look at Africa, I look at the Middle East. I kind of look everywhere for inspiration of what kind of new flavor I'm going to make. But even more importantly, I look at the community in which I'm going to be serving the product. And I kind of, say, all right, would they like this? Are they ready for it? Because at the end of the day, we want someone to be able to enjoy the product, and also you want to be able to make sure that the company can sell the product. So it kind of goes in a lot of different ways, but it's really fun. It's a really fun part of food science to be able to do the ideation, product development, all the way to creating the final product that's on the grocery store shelves, or in people's hands that you see maybe on TikTok or YouTube or Instagram or anything like that, eating the product. It's actually really rewarding.
And we have one final question to wrap up our Q&A. What are your suggestions for the next food scientist?
My suggestions for the next food scientist will be find what it is that you love so much, like find what I call your ice cream that you love so much that you can do it for the rest of your life. And don't forget to work hard, because although I love what I do, I work really hard to have gotten to where I am. Work hard, and don't forget to inspire those along the way. So one thing that I do as a food scientist is I make sure I do things, for instance, like what we're doing today, being able to give back. It's really important to be able to not necessarily hold on to your science, but to give back, especially to communities where people may not see people that look like me always kind of doing things like this in terms of being a food scientist. So that's one key component. The other key component is, find what it is that you fall in love with that science, and explore it. There's so much that we don't know about food, and there's so much that we don't know about food and how to be able to get it over to our grow food, for instance, in some third world countries. And so how can food scientists use their platforms, use food that they make to be able to feed the world? And so we have enough food in the world to feed the world, but yet we still have people that go hungry. And so being able to explore that side of things and be able to inspire people along the way, I think I would love to see that from the next generations of food scientists, but also continue to create food that's not only safe for us to eat, but also enjoyable, and to be able to, continue to showcase, like, this is what a food scientist looks like. Because a lot of people don't even know that food scientists exist. People tend to think of chefs only and not food scientists. So I hope that food scientists continue to get out there and show the world who we are, what we do, and how cool and fascinating science really can be.
Well, Dr. Maya, I think that was a wonderful way to wrap up a wonderful presentation, because you truly gave us a wonderful presentation. And I enjoyed learning more about the science of ice cream. And I hope once I send these cards out to our wonderful teachers that they're able to pass it out to their students. And if they can't do it in the classroom, hopefully this can be a family activity over the holidays. So thank you so much for taking the time out of your schedule to speak to us and speak to our teachers and our students. And of course, everyone, thank you for taking the time out of your afternoon and evening, wherever you're joining us from, to listen to Dr. Maya. And we have to thank our wonderful sponsors that allow for us to give you this information free of cost. So I hope you guys enjoyed tonight, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your evening and day for you, Dr. Maya.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you to everyone. Thank you, Heather. And if you all want to learn more, you can always go to my Instagram at maya.warren. There's so many more recipes, as well as my website. All that information is on the cards as well. There's so many different videos out there of how to make chocolate, different chocolate no-churn ice cream, s'mores, strawberry cheesecake, etc. So go have fun, be safe, and don't forget to find your ice cream.
Thank you.